Welcome to Shujin Academy VGM Club. I'm Professor Tom, your faculty sponsor. It feels like things are going to get worse. In the place I live, we're currently at a low point in new COVID infections, and that sounds good, right? The deadly disease that's killed 1 million people in the United States and hospitalized millions more is on its way out, isn't it? I can't shake the feeling that it's not on the way out. I feel like this is just a momentary respite until the next phase of the pandemic starts up and things get bad again, and our hospital gets full, and I'm afraid to leave the house because my fellow citizens seem to think that non-consensual tantric breathing with strangers is a perfectly acceptable pastime. Maybe I pay too much attention to the news. I almost certainly pay too much attention to the news, but things feel bleak. There's out-of-control climate change, the country seems to be inexorably sliding towards civil war, and the politicians who run my state think that my daughter is breeding stock first and a human being fourth. A few days ago, I literally had a conversation with a friend about how we feel like NPCs in a dystopian cyberpunk RPG. In keeping with my gloomy mood, this episode will be devoted to ominous VGM. There's no shortage of games that feature long periods of tension and gloom, so I had a lot to choose from. The opening tune for this episode was the title theme from the original arcade version of Hang On, composed by Yoshi Ishii and Hiroshi Kawaguchi. I've always thought that song sounded pretty heavy for a motorcycle racing game, as if you were racing against the devil in a fight for your immortal soul instead of just a trophy. In the first block, I'll start off with Dive Into the Heart from Kingdom Hearts, composed by Yoko Shimomura, then we'll hear Poison of Snake from the original arcade version of Life Force, also known as Salamander. The exact chain of who composed what on this game seems a little convoluted due to the fact that the game received ports to 4 different home consoles, but I believe the primary composer was Miki Higashino, with assistance from Hidenori Maezawa, Shinya Sakamoto, Satoe Terashima, and Atsushi Fujio. After that, we'll hear the stage theme from the original arcade version of Alien Syndrome, composed by Toru Nakabayashi. If you're unfamiliar with the game, it's about a pair of soldiers trying to save captured comrades from space alien infestations in a series of space stations. It's highly influenced by James Cameron's movie Aliens, and I like the sense of creeping dread in this song. We'll also hear Demon Cave from Final Fantasy Legend, also known as Makai Toushi Saga, because I find it difficult to get through an episode without playing at least one song from Nobuo Uematsu. And finally in this block I'll play Sigma Fortress 3 from Mega Man X, which is not to be confused with Mega Man 10 because Roman numerals. Credited composers for Mega Man X are Setsuo Yamamoto, Makoto Tomozawa, Yuki Iwai, Yuko Takehara, and Toshihiko Horiyama. In case you can't tell, I've been feeling depressed recently. I think about things and out of nowhere I start to get angry, or I go to check the weather on my phone and I end up staring at it in a fugue state for 20 minutes at a time. I'm trying to move out of it, but it's difficult to tell if I'm overly worried or if I'm actually looking at the world with a clear-eyed, sober assessment of things, and everything really is as bad as it looks. The pandemic was not good for my mental health or my outlook on the world. Even if there's never another wave, it has permanently darkened my worldview. Hope feels like a scary emotion right now. It's easier to assume that things will be bad than it is to deal with inevitable disappointment. Maybe this episode is something I'm doing to work through some of that. For our second music block, I'm going to start with Resistance from Front Mission Gun Hazard. This is another Nobuo Uematsu track from a game I wish we'd seen in the United States outside of fan translations. I've liked all the Front Mission games I've played, and I wish that Square Enix would release a translated compilation of them like they did for the Seiken Densetsu series. Unfortunately, Front Mission is a pretty text-heavy series that doesn't have much mainstream appeal, so I doubt it'll ever happen. I'll follow that up with Puppetmaster from Ninja Gaiden 2, The Dark Sword of Chaos for the NES. The composers are Ryuichi Nitta and Mayuko Okamura. The NES Ninja Gaiden games were surprisingly plot-heavy for 8-bit side-scrollers, and this is one of the songs used in the game's dramatic expository cutscenes. Song 3 in the block is the Item Select theme from the NES version of Legacy of the Wizard, composed by Yuzo Koshiro. This game is actually the fourth game in the Dragon Slayer series. We only saw a handful of them in the US, and none of them bore the Dragon Slayer name, but the series has quite a few entries spread across a lot of platforms. After that, we'll hear Final Destination from Mega Man X2, which is not to be confused with Mega Man 12 because Roman numerals again. This song is credited to Yuki Iwai. I'll also play the Data Load Screen theme from the Super Famicom version of Shin Megami Tensei If, composed by Tsukasa Masuko. This is another game that's never been released in English outside of fan translations, and it's an offshoot of the Shin Megami Tensei series that influenced the creation of the Persona games. You could probably even call it Persona Zero. Finally, in this block, I'll play Wave of Evil from Lufia and the Fortress of Doom, composed by Yasunori Shiono. Now for a word from our sponsor.
Are you interested in a career that pays well and provides lots of excitement and danger? If so, select Evil, the Ridley College of Villainous Studies at North Tennessee State University is open for enrollment now. Get an associate's degree in henchmanship in as little as 6 months, or study for your mid-boss certification with our bachelor's degree program. Looking to change careers? We offer master's degree programs in both lair design and level boss studies. You can even get a PhD to become an end-game boss. Visit our website today at northtennesseestate.edu.
Thanks to North Tennessee State University for sponsoring the show. I don't know that I have anything else to say about how I've been feeling, but thank you for listening. If you are feeling down, know that you're not alone, and these feelings don't last forever. The first song in our final segment is Cursed Town from Final Fantasy, The Four Heroes of Light, composed by Naoshi Mizuta. If you listen to it on headphones, you'll notice the stereo effects it uses. The first Bravely Default game began as a sequel to this game before turning into its own thing. For the second song, I'll be playing A Position of Total Control from Treasure Hunter G, composed by Akiko Goto. If you've never encountered Treasure Hunter G, that's probably because it was Square's last game for the Super Famicom. It's never received an official English translation. The soundtrack is excellent and well worth checking out. The third song in this segment is Cavern from Front Mission Gun Hazard. Like Chrono Trigger, this soundtrack is a collaboration between Yasunori Mitsuda and Nobuo Uematsu, and this is one of Mitsuda's contributions. I find the use of voice samples in this track to be really creepy. It could have been used in a horror game without any changes. The fourth song is Place of Ordeals from Final Fantasy X, composed by Nobuo Uematsu. That game has some very sad notes. The opening moments are set during sunset in the ruins of a city, and if you know the game's plot twist regarding Yuna, you can actually see the moments when the characters try to distract themselves from the sacrifices they'll have to make at the end of their journey. Song 5 is Ominous from Persona 5, composed by Shoji Meguro. There are some great scenes in that game where you really feel how completely unfair the game's world has been to Joker, the other Phantom Thieves, and almost every one of their allies. There are moments in that game where finding a way out seems impossible, but somehow the characters find a way to survive. I love every game in the Persona Primary Colors trilogy, and maybe sometime in another episode I'll explain how Persona 5 feels like an unintentional allegory for the political events of the United States in 2016, particularly in how the game handles politician Masayoshi Shido. The final song for this episode is The Vile Peaks from Final Fantasy XIII. Composer Masashi Hamauzu made an excellent song here that creates a feeling of creeping dread. I recall reading news about the game's troubled development cycle. I know the feeling of working on a seemingly unending project from my professional life, and how that crushes the joy out of everything else going on in your life. Those projects are some of the worst of my career. If you want to reach me, you can email me at shujinacademyvgmclub@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter at ShujinVGMClub and on Instagram at ShujinAcademyVGMClub. Please leave me a 5-star rating on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you're finding this episode. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Professor Tom, and I'll see you next time on Shujin Academy VGM Club.